Welcome back. Is there a systematic persecution of Hindus in Bangladesh? Is the Yunus-led government turning a blind eye to their sufferings and letting radical Islamists rule the roost? I say this because Hindus in Bangladesh, which is the minority community, have faced hundreds of attacks in at least 50 districts since the fall of Sheikh Hasina's Awami League government on the 5th of August. Soon after he took over, Mohammad Yunus, the head of the caretaker government there, visited the Dakeshwari temple. He assured the leaders of the Hindu community that we're all one people and justice will be given to all. But 2 months later, that promise rings hollow. It's Ashtami today. Bengalis celebrate this day of Durga Puja with much fanfare. But this year, the number of Durga Puja committees in Bangladesh has decreased. Now, many in the administration say that this has to do with the recent floods than anything else. But the fear of disruption and desecration of their faith is very real on ground. Now, it's been at least 2 months since Sheikh Hasina's ouster from that country and the caretaker government being put there in place. But the targeting of the Hindu community seems to be routine now. In the recent past, in just the last 24 hours, there have been at least 4 provocations that we saw on ground. One came from a temple. The golden crown or the mukut of goddess Kali was stolen. There is CCTV footage of the man who did it, but so far there has been no arrest made in that theft case. In another instance, there were controversial songs that were being sung and played at a Durga Puja pandal. This happened in Chittagong. There were Muslim youths that were getting a free run as alleged by the locals there at this particular pandal. There were protests that erupted from the local community, from the Hindu community there as well. Hindus were also asked to tone down their festivities for Durga Puja. We had a policeman also come out and defend why they were asked to do so. There's no Murti Puja in Islam, which is why this cannot be given permission to be done at a large scale, was a defense that came to the fore from a policeman. In another provocation, we saw home of a Hindu that was set ablaze. This happened in the Aziz Fazlipur area. So far, there are no leads on who the accused is or what the motive behind this arson was, and this just is the latest as far as attacks on Hindu homes and businesses is concerned. So while we see theft and threats and desecration in this puja season, has the caretaker government, the Yunus-led government in Bangladesh, failed the minority community?
যে সংস্কৃতি এটা তার পছন্দ না, সে চায় যে সবাই ইসলাম ধর্ম গ্রহণ করবে।
बांग्लादेश में हो रहे हिंदुओं पे अत्याचार नहीं बर्दाश्त करेगा हिंदुस्तान। अब समय आ गया है हिंदुओं को एक होने करने का, हिंदुओं को एक होने का।
An activist, thank you so much for staying on with us, Rashmi Saban. This is not the first time, unfortunately, where they were discussing how Hindu community, how Hindus are in Bangladesh. It's been 2 months since the Sheikh Hasina government fell, since we saw a caretaker government there come into being. Is there a reason why this goes on unabated? Do you think the state is not doing enough to clamp down?
Well, I think it is nothing but systemic genocide and ethnic cleansing of Bangladeshi Hindus. A professor at Dhaka University, Dr. Abul Barkat, he himself said, he belongs to the Muslim community, he's from Dhaka. He himself said that by 2030, there will be no Hindus left and in Bangladesh. And this statistic came out at a time when Sheikh Hasina was still prime minister, and we didn't see this kind of an escalated attack on the Hindu community. But I think at the current rate, the Hindu community will cease to exist in less than a decade. This is nothing but ethnic cleansing. Bangladesh is going the way that Afghanistan did. It's going the way that Pakistan did with respect to how they treated the Hindu minority. And before long, we will see the last Hindu, leave the country. And I think that is absolutely heartbreaking. The second thing is that Muhammad Yunus government, it claims to, because he was put there by America, and America seems to have this so-called, they're taking so-called cognizance of the human rights of Hindu minorities. They've expressed their concern. But what kind of a concerned response is to ask Hindus to stop their activities, to stop puja during Azan time? Azan happens almost 5 times a day, and even at noon when Hindus do the Mahapuja. So how is it that we're supposed to keep pausing our puja, our celebrations, just so that we can keep the, majority community happy? I mean, if it's nothing, it's just trying to, curtail the celebration so much that there is no pomp, there is no excitement left. Everything they want to do, they're not allowed to, play loud music. They're not allowed to pray during Azan. They're not allowed to do this. They're not allowed to do that. The government claims to have rapid response teams, but then when there is a theft that happened, for hours there has been no response. There are no arrests made, whilst there is clear CCTV footage as to who the culprit is. So this goes on to say that the assurances of the Bangladeshi government is just hogwash. It is just statements to appease the so-called, the so-called people who've kept an eye and are seeking accountability from the Muhammad Yunus government. But he seems to have no love lost for the Hindu community, because if he did care, then his heart would bleed for the state of the Hindu community post Sheikh Hasina's exit from the government.
Why do you think that the
Bangladesh.
world is turning a blind eye? I mean, we've seen this over the last 2 months, but this is not new. We've seen this kind of attacks, this kind of persecution happen even in the past in Bangladesh. There have been several SOSs that have come to the fore, but we don't see the United Nations or the world taking note or doing anything about it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the UNRWA was set up to, help refugees in Palestine, but no such association was set up, no such department was set up to help refugees, Hindu refugees getting out of Pakistan during the partition or post that, or from Bangladesh when the whole thing with East Pakistan happened. There is literally no help for the they're like the abandoned children of the world. It is very unfortunate, and it is the reality that the world does nothing, and it's got clear double standards and hypocrisy when it comes to what refugees are to be supported and what are not. There is a clear line of political capital associated with each class, each group. And I've seen that it's more politics than humanity which comes into force when it comes to refugees, when it comes to humanitarian issues, and that sense of illusionment which creeps in when you realize that not everybody is given the same help is heartbreaking. Today, so much could be done to help Hindus who are fleeing Pakistan, Hindus who are fleeing Bangladesh, but nothing is being done. In fact, the world tries to chastise the Indian government when they try to rehabilitate the persecuted religious minorities from their neighboring countries, which is the need of the hour. So what we're doing about resettling these refugees and these persecuted minorities is in the negative. The world is also trying to stop legitimate countries from helping the very countries which want to do little to rehabilitate the few people who are fleeing these countries.
Sure.
Today, Bangladeshis, Hindus are left with no option. If they come to India, they have no citizenship, they have no profession, they have no health care.
Also, why should they leave their country? I mean, it is the job of their administration, of their government, to ensure their safety and their security. I mean, leaving the country shouldn't even be an option if the if the government of the day there, the administration, the state as a system would do something about it. And we really hope that they do, because this is not going away. Unfortunately, these attacks aren't stopping, and unless something is done and a message is sent out by the caretaker government in Bangladesh, I don't think this is going to end anytime soon. We do hope, though, that Muhammad Yunus and the caretaker government takes note. Rashmi Samant, I have to leave it at that. I thank you so much for joining us here and sharing your perspective. Slipping into a quick break on this edition of Plain Speak, but on the other side, we'll get you the war in West Asia. Israel continues its offensive. It cripples Hezbollah in Lebanon, but there is a fallout of that as well. We'll get you some reports from on ground.